Hi friends, it's Dina with Forever Free with EFT, and today we're going to work on the issue of patience. I've been in this amazing Bible study with people in my area. It's actually online, so we're from all over the place, but it's going through something called Musar, which is more of a Jewish tradition of character traits, a list of character traits likened to the fruits of the Holy Spirit, but not exactly the same as the fruits of the Holy Spirit. And so anyways, we are on the trait of patience. And so often I feel like we define patience in terms of waiting and waiting with grace maybe, or with kindness, when in fact what I learned, the Hebrew word for patience is salvanut, which also means tolerance. So it's more of being able to tolerate and bear the daily frustrations that may come across our path. I'm going to read a small little quote from the book that we're using, and it says, when you find yourself in a situation that is triggering your impatience, instead of giving all your attention and energy to finding fault with the person who is so clearly at fault, you can choose to be patient and take responsibility for your emotional response to that situation. You make the choice of whether you buckle or call on patience to help you bear the burden of the situation. So I think that sums it up really wonderfully in terms of it's all about how we choose to react to whatever the trigger or stimulus is that then we find ourselves being impatient with. Now, I'm a mother of 3 school-aged children, so I feel like I get to work on my patience every single day. And we homeschool on top of that, so more patience is being required because there's so many little frustrations that come across my path in and out all day long. And it's really more about my response to what is going on, whatever they're doing that might be triggering me recognizing that I'm being triggered and deciding, how do I want to respond to this? Do I want to blow up and get angry and super frustrated and yell at them or nag them because maybe they're not doing something that they said they were going to do, and then I grow impatient because they still haven't taken out the trash? Or can I take a big deep breath, and can I approach them and say, hey, I noticed the trash still hasn't been taken out, and you told me an hour ago that you were going to get right to that. That would be a way better response. Now, I don't claim to always have that response, but in doing this practice that we have in our Bible study, I definitely have caught myself many, many, many times realizing that it's my burden to bear, that it's my reaction that causes my own impatience or lack of patience. But of course, I want to take it one step further and connect. How can EFT help us in this practice of patience? Well, of course it can, because basically when we get impatient and we're angry and we're frustrated and we're exasperated with whatever the situation is, and we're so triggered, we are emotionally dysregulated. And so that's a sign we need to tap. So you can think of a situation, or if you were just in a situation where your patience was incredibly tested, think on a scale of 1 to 10, how impatient, frustrated, angry, exasperated by the situation did you feel? And then we're going to do some tapping, and then you're going to rate yourself and see if that marker comes down. And if you feel more regulated within yourself, calmer, less stressed out, more at peace, so that you could potentially go back to that situation and maybe handle it differently, or reapproach that person, or whatever the do-over that you might need to have to do it. So we're just gonna get to it here on our karate chop point. Even though I become easily triggered by other people's habits or lack of doing, or there's just so many triggers that come across my day that are out of my control, generally in interacting with other people, I can be emotionally regulated and access my patience through the help of the Holy Spirit. Even though there are so many things that may trigger me in a given day, people that don't act quick enough, that don't meet the deadline that they need to meet, that aren't good drivers on the road, or the long lines in the grocery store that constantly test my ability to be patient. I can be patient. I can access my ability to bear those burdens through the help of the Ruach. Even though my day sometimes is bombarded with various situations that really cause me to feel tested in the area of patience, and I'm so frustrated, and I want things to get going and move along, I can access my patience and bear this burden that's in front of me through the help of the Ruach. I grow impatient with different variables in my day. It might be an interaction that I have with someone who is not pulling their weight, doing their share, or following through in the ways that they need to follow through with. And so I become frustrated and impatient. It may be that I am running late for something, and I am driving to an appointment that is important, even if it's not important, but I'm running late, and it feels like I'm hitting every red light, and I'm getting behind every slow driver. And so that tests my patience, and I grow frustrated, and I want to just tell the people what they should be doing and how they should be driving. And maybe I'm talking out loud to myself and having this conversation about why are they driving so slow, and why am I hitting every red light, and now I'm going to be late, and on with all the fallout that my being late is going to cause me. And that makes me upset and frustrated and very stressed out. And so I'm growing impatient. I have these interactions with my family throughout the day, and my children maybe are disobedient for feels like the millionth time. And so I don't handle that well, and I want them to accept their role and accept their responsibility. And so I grow impatient. I'm not bearing with them. I'm not in a place where I am instructing them well, or just emotionally handling the situation in front of me. I'm super frustrated. I get super angry. And I'm starting to lose my cool, and maybe I immediately will start yelling to them, or maybe I even will lay out some expectations of what needs to happen in our day with either school or chores or other responsibilities that we have. And I leave the room to go take part in what my jobs are and get my responsibilities done. We've all agreed that this is what we will get done today. Some time passes, and I come back into the room where people are, and the things that we agreed to do are not done. None of it. And so I have a choice before me. How am I going to respond emotionally? I want to explode. I want to rant and rave and ask them, why haven't they done these things? And what have they been doing? What, I say that so many times to my family, what have you been doing? I've been gone for 2 hours. Maybe I had some errands to run. And now I'm back home and I laid out the 3 things that I needed to get done and none of it's done. What have they been doing? And so my response is maybe to rant and rave about how they agreed and how they should be done and all the things. And my expectations have not been met. And I'm frustrated and I have no more patience for this kind of behavior. And so now what do I do? How do I respond? That's a great response, is taking a deep breath. I can do many things. I can just yell and rant and rave and point things out to them and remind them of their agreement and what they should have done. I can take several deep breaths. I can say, okay, I'm going to be right back. And maybe go and tap for a couple of minutes on the exact what they did or didn't do. And come back to them and just say, it's really disappointing that we agreed together to get these tasks done for the family and for our home. And I went away to do my part of what I needed to do, or I had errands to run that were a part of things that needed to get done or bought or gas in the car or whatever. And I come back after some time and nothing is done. And I often feel like this happens, that expectations are laid and things don't get done. And it's clearly not my fault when people have said they heard and agreed what needed to get done. And so I can express that. I can express my need for them to create a timeline or have a reasonable time that they will agree to get those things done. And so on and so forth. These examples can go of interactions or different triggers that try our patience, that try my ability to bear the burden of the frustration or the stressor that I am faced with. And I have an ugly reaction. I allow my mind and my emotions to get the best of me and to point fingers and place blame and become frustrated and yell and get ugly and angry. Instead of reminding myself what true patience looks like. How much patience does the Father have with me? He is described as slow to anger. He is described as long-suffering, which means basically he's willing to suffer really long before he decides enough is enough. And sometimes I can barely stand 10 minutes. He is full of kindness. One of his major characteristics is his kindness, his compassion towards people, towards their circumstances, towards the things that may feel out of their control. And not only that, he is the author of control. He holds all things in his hands, and he commands all things to work how they work. And so how do I not know that he put me in some of these situations and experiences for my good to learn this trait of patience, to learn how to be long-suffering and slow to anger and compassionate and kind with the people that I'm dealing with day in and day out, especially my family. And so I can choose my reactions. I can choose to take deep breaths. I can choose a different response. I can allow myself to let go of the anger and the frustration. And I can display more patience with the situations that drive me crazy. So how does that feel? Basically, whatever those situations are that try your patience the most, it's always better to use your specific situations, your specific words. But until then, try it out, practice it, and see if you find yourself forever free.